And for our last lab, we have the secure data access in Microsoft Fabric. This lab is also on the longer side, 45 minutes to complete if you are completely unfamiliar with the topic of security and data access in Microsoft Fabric. If you are familiar, it should take you a little bit less time to complete this. So let's go into our first task, which is creating a workspace as usual. We're going to go to the workspaces icon in the left panel here, and we're going to create a new workspace, which is going to be called DP-600 Lab 15. We're going to make sure that we have the correct license selected, either the trial or the premium or the fabric capacity. Select apply. And the first thing we're going to do after we have created this workspace is creating a data warehouse. So let's go to the plus new item and scroll down to store data and create the sample data warehouse so that we already have some data available in there. Let's name this the DP-600 Lab 15 warehouse. Let's give this a minute. All right, nearly done. So we have now sample data loaded into our sample warehouse. We're also going to be creating a new lakehouse. So let's go back to our workspace and create a new lakehouse. So let's scroll down to store data and create a new lakehouse. Let's name it DP-600 Lab 15 Lakehouse. Lakehouse and create. All right, and here we have a little prompt to start with some sample data. So we can pick some sample data here. Let's pick the New York taxi sample data. All right, so now we have some sample data in here. There you go. We have some tables, and we don't have anything in files, but we have some green trip data for 6 years. All right, so now let's apply some workspace access control. Let's go back to our workspace. And here, if you click on the manage access, you can see that, oh, let's refresh the page for a minute. And then let's, yes, oh, some problem here. Let's log in again. Okay, and let's go back to our workspace. There you go. And so we can click on this manage access button, and you can see, since I was the one who created this workspace, I have the admin permissions in here. Next, what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another person who has only read permissions. So I'm going to add Harry, and Harry is going to be able to only read the data because I'm going to give Harry only the viewer permission, and the viewer role is only for people who can read information and not make changes. We also have the contributor who can then make changes to your items, your fabric items, and we also have the member who is like the admin but with a little bit less control than the admin. So I'm just going to add Harry as the viewer, and I also have signed in here as Harry. I have a new separate window here, and I can go to my workspaces and, oh wait, I'm just going to refresh this page so I can see the workspaces here. And there you go. I can now see this workspace as a viewer. And you can see how different it is. The viewer doesn't have access to view the semantic models. So I can go into the workspace, into the warehouse, and I can um, query the data. For example, let's go into some tables, and I can run a SQL query here. And I can execute this query and I can see the data, but I will not be able to make any changes to this data. All right, so that's the first part in here to check the workspace viewer role, which only has the read permissions. And I can also do this in the Lakehouse with the SQL Analytics endpoint. All right. Now let's apply some item access control. So let's go back in here, and we're going to take out the workspace viewer role. So I'm going to just remove it here. So Harry doesn't have access to this anymore. Now, instead of giving Harry access to the entire workspace, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give Harry access to one particular item. So what we're going to do is we're going to look at the workspace and click on these three little dots and go to manage permissions. And here you can see for now it's only me who has the workspace admin access. And I'm going to add a user here, and I'm going to add Harry, for example. And I'm going to give Harry the read all using SQL read data. So this will give Harry the permission to run SQL queries against my data warehouse. I could also give Harry the read all OneLake data, or the permission to build reports on the default semantic model. And I'm going to grant this access for Harry. And now you can see Harry has been added here. Harry does not have any workspace role, but does have some permissions on the data. So let's go back to see what Harry can see now. If I go back to the workspace and I refresh this, Okay, it still have the residual access here, so let's give it a couple of more seconds. I'm just going to refresh this again, and now I can see that I cannot see this. I'm just going to give it another second because I should be able to see the workspace because I do have access to at least only the warehouse. So as you can see, I have access to the warehouse and I can query the data from the warehouse because I do have access to read the data in the warehouse, but I no longer have access to the lakehouse, which I have from inside that workspace. So let's refresh this again and go to my workspaces. I still don't have the workspace over here, but I still have not lost access to the workspace. All right, last but not the least is to apply one lake data access in a lake house. So let's go back. Let's stay here and let's select one lake, for example. And you can see over here, I don't see the lake house right now, right? I can only see the warehouse because I have the read access to the warehouse currently. All right. So let's go back to the previous page where I'm logged in as admin. Let's go back to my workspace. And I'm going to hover over my lake house and I'm going to manage permissions here. And let's add a user here. And let's add Harry here. All right. And let's grant. We're not going to add any additional permissions here. We're just going to grant this. Okay, so now Harry will only have read permissions on this lake house. So let's go back and see what Harry sees. So let's refresh this one lake page. And now you can see Harry can see the lake house as well. So let's open the lake house. All right. And you can see that even though Harry has the read permissions on the lakehouse, Harry cannot access any of the data within the tables and the files in that lakehouse. So do need to give a read permission on the data itself in the One Lake data access permissions. So let's go back and do that. Let's go to the workspace and let's select the lake house. So we're going to go to the lake house and we're going to manage the permissions now specify. And we're going to delete this role that was already existing and we're going to recreate it. So I'm going to create a new role, which is going to be NYC green taxi, and it's going to be only for 2022. And I'm going to select only for the 2022 table and I'm going to click save. And what I'm going to do is also I'm going to assign this role to Harry. I'm going to add him here and I'm going to click save. So now Harry should have read permissions on this table. Um, so when we go to Harry's here, you can see now that if I refresh this page, Harry has permissions to uh, that one table, not to all the tables, but just that one table. This sometimes can take a few minutes for the role to get propagated. So don't worry if you don't see it right away. You will see it after a couple of minutes. So I would say give it at least 2 minutes, 2 to 3 minutes for it to get propagated here. All right. And now you can see, I cannot see anything in the files, but I can see in the tables just one data as Harry. And with that, we have come to the end of this lab. Thank you for watching and good luck on your fabric journey.